Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian community's movers and shakers. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life chose us. Thank you to Revyz for backing us up and making the Jira Life possible.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
We have a super awesome, cool guest today. I'm excited for this one. Where is he? I think he went to space.
G'day. How you doing?
Good. Have you been? This is going to be a dumb question, but you've been to the Austin office for Atlassian, right?
Yes, I have.
I love their good day and then y'all.
G'day, y'all. How about that?
The perfect blend of two cultures.
I was really hoping you were going to ask him if he'd been to space. Where you said, I got a dumb question. And
That
I was
a
like,
follow-up question.
has he been to space?
Just wiki spaces.
Just wiki spaces.
Confluence
Right.
spaces.
And soon to be Jira spaces.
Jira space.
Exactly.
I'm going to Jira spaces, yes.
Exactly.
Not yet, but soon. Rob, my running theory conspiracy is that Confluence will cease to exist and it's all just going to be one tool.
That is not your
Gee, I wonder
theory.
where you heard that one from, Alex.
From me, my head, the inside of
No.
the brains.
Or Jira projects will Jira.
I've been saying this
Work will be
since
within
they.
this place. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jira projects become spaces, and you can already do the side saddle with the Jira and the Confluence. You can already do pretty much anything from Confluence inside of Jira. So why have an extra tool?
Hey, I just want to get work done. I just want to get my work done.
I just
Yeah.
want to be huffy about this because Rodney has said it and I have said it.
Yeah.
But Sarah, you're not as mad as that one time that I told Mike that we were the ESPN of Atlassian, and I looked at you and you're like, that was my idea.
Yes, I may be a little sensitive about things, although I try to remember what my sister said when I was complaining about such things. And her take on it is that she's an influencer. And so that...
Hey, Matt Dorr is in the comments, and Matt Dorr helped paint this wall.
Did he really?
Yes,
nice.
he did. There you go, Matt. Good to see you,
Aw.
mate.
I love that.
There you go.
You know what? Now that I look at it, I think I've seen in some of your like behind the scenes videos or pictures that these were all hand drawn, right?
They're kind of a little bit hand drawn. I projected on there and traced it with a pencil, and then we painted them.
It's better than what I
Okay.
would have done. I just did stick figures.
The trivia is this is the only rocket that we painted that's vertical, and all the rest are at 1 o'clock. So we did a lot of experiments, 45 degrees, and we settled at 1 o'clock. So
They're almost kind of like with
got-
the Jira Life. We have a
Yeah.
very specific font for the Jira Life that when I originally put the logo together, and then Ronnie he used a whole different font. So there's two fonts, and one of them is like the handmade font and the handmade
Original.
shirts, and then all the commercially produced stuff has a different font.
yeah, there we go. See
Right,
how
so
it
I got to get
evolves
this out
over
of
time.
Rob's face here. But yeah, people are
So,
coming in, and so
yeah.
Rob, we I don't know if you I'm assuming you're a man that needs no introduction, but for the
Maybe,
very
I don't know.
people that probably haven't heard of you,
For our 2.01K subscribers, maybe not everybody
lot of
knows. So
people.
let's do it for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So my name is Rob Castaneda, and I'm the founder of Service Rocket. Many people may know us as Customware, because when I started the company in 2001, that was our name. And we teamed up with David Peterson pretty early and worked with him on a bunch of Confluence apps. If you've used scaffolding, reporting, we built Jira Salesforce connector and did a whole bunch of stuff over the years. But in 2008, I moved here to the US and have been based in Palo Alto since then. And so I've been working, we actually just turned 24 as a company. So we're in our 25th year of business.
so you're trailing Atlassian like right there, aren't you?
We're actually 6 months older.
Older, okay.
Yes, we're all, Atlassian is our little brother.
Mm.
So yeah.
That is a claim. That's a really nice claim.
I was like, you typically go to your iPhotos, right, or your Apple Photos, and you try and find old photos, and it's like, when we started, there was no mobile phones. Like, the mobile phones were Nokia's. There was no cameras on the phones. There was no social media. And so if ever any of the early photos we have are actually, deliberate, take photo.
Physical photos.
Physical photos.
Right.
Like that wall that I thought was totally not a real wall, but apparently it's a real wall.
That is a real wall. There we go. Can bounce balls off it. So we were named Customware, and when we came to the US, somebody had the trademark. So we had to rename, and we ended up through a long series of accidents coming up with the name Service Rocket. And we then, this wall used to be a peach color, kind of like my shirt. And then our graphic designer that we used, he said, hey, I made this rocket for somebody and they don't want it. You can have it. Okay. So the logo we got for free, although it didn't have a flame, and it used to have 2 eyeballs, and there was a little green Martian that came with it. So we deleted the Martian, put the flame on, got rid of the eyeballs, and that became our logo. So it was a I don't know, $500 domain name and free graphic design. And the color of the blue I just borrowed from our friends at Salesforce. So I thought they must have researched it, right?
Well, it's coming through like slightly tealish, and if I recall, when the Jaguars and somebody else, when they first joined the NFL, they both went with teal because it was the highest selling merchandise color. And so they put their logos with that. So in terms of research of colors and whatnot, then I think there's something to it.
That's one way to do it. Yeah, totally. But so we've been doing a lot of migration work, a lot of hardcore services work, building a lot of Forge apps. We built a whole bunch of stuff, and I think the biggest thing we're proud of is we helped build the ecosystem. And very early on, I came from an open source background. And that's where I met Mike and Scott early on in the J2EE world. And so I think very early on, just getting a lot of the founders together and growing and scaling this program to where it is today has been a really, really big part of our journey.
Did that ecosystem, I am so sorry, I warned you, you've been warned. Did the ecosystem include building the community?
I think inherently we did that. I remember given the open source roots of both companies, I remember the first Atlas camp, and Mike got everyone together and we're all just hacking and building stuff, and just the mindset of building things and helping each other, not necessarily trying to win at business. And I think the mindset was everyone had their own chess game and everyone was playing their own game, but not against each other. Everyone was playing to win, and everybody could win. And so I think early on, there's a lot of infinite game players versus finite game players from that regard. And there's still a little bit of that spirit left. So hopefully we can rekindle that in the next generation of where we're going. So
at what point did you merge or pivot to be more of an Atlassian support than, because if you're a little bit older, Atlassian didn't exist before you were.
Yeah, that's right. So we were doing a lot of work with WebLogic, Web Methods, a lot of the big Java platforms and integration platforms. And I needed a workflow engine for a project I was doing at Johnson & Johnson. And when you bought Jira, you would get the source code. And so I was building something on OS Workflow, which is the underlying components that Jira is built on. And I pinged Mike. I said, Mike, can I just buy Jira and just use the code?
Hey, just ship it over here. No worries.
Because when you bought the early versions, you would get the source code. So I was like, okay, can I just buy the code for Johnson & Johnson and resell it? But they won't use it as Jira. They were using it for a change control project we built. And so that was the very first resell. And after we did that work, I think it was just a natural piece that Scott and Mike didn't want to do services work. They were very focused on
building
on the product, because they previously came from doing support of J2EE and that world. And so I think it was when the phone rang, because that's what happened in those days. When the phone rang, it was like, okay, go and talk to Rob.
Then a fax machine and things come out of this machine.
Yeah. You load the toner in the fax, but So we would get a lot of referrals for small things and helping out. And then I think for our business, it started small. And then we also couldn't hire people. Like you can't just go and hire people in Jira when, Jira itself is 6 months old, right?
So you didn't have recruiters asking for 10 years of experience in Jira?
Yeah, no. So we actually built some really good relationships with the local universities, and we started training people. And so we built a really good infrastructure as a company of how to skill people up. And so most of the hires that we've had, even to date, we hire people and we bring them into the ecosystem versus just trying to find resumes that pattern match and do that. It's a different world these days. But so I would say it was probably around 2006 that things got pretty serious. 2005, Confluence was coming out. We were the first people to pay for that and buy it. We went live on version 0.2, and I think it was in like a bit earlier than that. But things started to get serious then, because then we were getting requests for training, and that was the pull for us. We did we got this initial project from Adobe back in those early days, right? 2004, 2005.
Back when Adobe had their wall of like the table of elements.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, get this project, right? They remember the Flash player.
Yeah.
They open source. They open source. Do
Flash
you remember when they open sourced the Flash player? They open sourced the Flash player,
Yes.
and they ran bugs.adobe.com on Jira. We ran it for them.
Oh my gosh.
So we launched it on Jira together with Matthew Porter from Contigix. They did the hosting. Atlassian did the software, right? We did all the services and all the upkeep and got it all up there. And we launched bugs.adobe.com on Jira as a full-on public site. And that was, in those early days. And that lasted for a little while, and until Flash itself,
Die.
went off into the distance. And but yeah, Contigix are really good partners, especially back then. And but yeah, we all just helping each other, make a little dent in the world.
Yeah. So at what point then did you take me back to when you're watching Atlassian grow, you're growing? At what point were you like, this is going to be something big?
I remember Scott and I used to catch up a lot more on the business side, and Mike was very hands-on with Charles and Anton and the teams building the code. And so I would go down every Friday, but we would always catch up, and Scott would say, we're 9 people, and I'll be like, we're 12, right? And it's like, we're 15 people. It's like, oh, we're 18, and we were ahead up until about 30. And I remember one day going in and say, hey, we're 35. And he's like, we're 52. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we're done. This is okay. What I really liked were the open source type aspects, where the product was basically coming up through the floorboards of enterprise. And people were doing real things with it. And as we were building connectors and education programs and things to enable companies to do more and more, things were growing. We built all the training curriculum. We ran all the training at the first Summit conference, had a few hundred people go through training there, and really helped that take off.
What year was that? Did you say the
like
first summit?
First Summit, I think it was 2008.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
right.
Yeah, and yeah, digital cameras then. Like if you were on it, you had an iPhone, maybe. Right.
But you must have been really cool at that point with an iPhone in 2008.
Yeah.
Those were hard to get a hold of back then.
I still have a bunch of photos of that first Atlassian Summit, and like Randall is there with the AppFire team, Francois is there with the Valiantus team, Matthew's there from Contigix, the Adaptivist guys are there, Dan is there. Like all the companies are all there with like 1 or 2 people just getting started and getting off the ground. The Gliffy guys were there. I mean, I remember being in the same room in San Francisco when on the same day Chris came in to demo Gliffy. I was like, hey, look what we built. And on the same day, think it was Jean Paul brought in Greenhopper to show that off, which became,
Yes.
Jira Agile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like on the same day, I was sitting with Mike as these people were kind of like, it's kind of like Shark Tank, but friendly. They were like, hey, I'm building this. What do you think? And so I think the seeding all those little companies and the culture and that was pretty special. And we were all there to help each other. So.
You know, it puts these images in my mind of when you see movies with like from, you know, again, like 20, 24 years ago with all these like super now famous stars. And then you see them back then, right? Before they were all well known, before they were the celebrities. And it's like, yeah, we were just these.
Yeah, I don't know about
people out here
celebrities. I mean,
doing
I don't know about celebrities, but we're
I don't
in the
know. Mike's
Atlassian world.
security is pretty legit.
okay. Celebrity.
Celebrity.
Atlassian legends.
I still fly economy, so I'm like,
Yeah, no, it's super awesome because like I think I'm probably the youngest to join the Atlassian ecosystem relative to Rodney and Sarah. So I've only been in it since 2016, and even then it wasn't anything I took serious until like 5 years ago that I really dug my toes into it.
mm-hmm.
And to catch where we are now and the level of maturity that Atlassian is and where it's going, and oftentimes we have a lot of internal debates about Atlassian's culture, how it's changing, it's focused on enterprise, right? But then to also hear the humble stories of its beginnings, I like history.
Yeah. I know one thing that, yeah, there was, and then I lost, and then I got it back. One thing I know Service Rocket had a big hand in, I know it's something near and dear to our hearts as TJL, is certifications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Joanna had a big role in that, or still does, right? Joanna Thurman.
She's still there.
And,
she likes to make my life
on the show.
So the story with Joanna, she was at Polycom, and Polycom wanted a whole bunch of training to build plugins and do a lot in Jira. And back at the time, the president of Atlassian was a gentleman named Jeffrey Walker, and Jeffrey was their first U.S. employee. He subsequently passed away of cancer, unfortunately, but he was the heart and soul of what was built over here. And Jeffrey would fly down to Sydney every now and then, and he's like, Rob, you got to move over. We have to get you over on this side of the pond. But the customer that was driving him a lot was Polycom, and Joanna wanted a whole bunch of training on plugins and development. And I remember like building the course and teaching her and her team. And we finished the course, and Joanna's like, yeah, this is a great course. Can you just come here and build it all for us? Like, can you get here next week type thing? So I don't know, a week or two later, I flew over to the Valley and spent time, and I built a connector between Siebel and Jira, which later would become the framework for the Salesforce Jira connector, which we rewrote 1,000 times as everyone changed APIs. But so Joanna was a customer. And then as time went on, Joanna finished up at Polycom. Joanna joined us as a trainer building certification. And then as Atlassian got very serious about building that program, then Joanna moved over to run that program at Atlassian. So she's been on every side of that program. And she's very thorough, very detailed, and has an absolute heart of gold. So
yeah, she's been on.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, she's been on the show before, and we absolutely loved having her. But Alex has a very interesting relationship with the
I have a
certification
love-hate
exams.
relationship with Joanne. I hate taking tests.
Well-
Like it's my biggest, I wouldn't say fear, but it's not something I look forward to. And she's like, she kind of pushed me into taking the 520, and now I'm on a conquest to get them all.
Oh, there you go.
So it's not Joanna per se. It's your feeling about tests is the issue. And
Yeah, but she's like the
exams
root of
more
all
than the
evil
person.
by making these tests.
Lots
now
of
there's
people help.
a leaderboard.
There's always a leaderboard here in the Jira Life, especially after like a month ago. I was going to ask you, how did you guys tackle building connectors and integrations and stuff with the tools? Because Google's about the same age. And so you couldn't just Google this stuff. And there definitely wasn't no Jupyter to, help you vibe code your way through these connectors. How
That's a good question.
frustrating or challenging or exciting was building these things?
So I started off at Borland Software on the help desk, and then I started teaching and working, doing a lot of WebLogic and integration work. So building integrations between systems was something that I knew how to do, and so actually I just was able to bring two different skill sets together, like the knowledge of the Atlassian platform plus the knowledge of what was called EAI, remember, Enterprise Application Integration, and all these hub and spoke models and all that stuff. And I had a really, even though I was very well educated in enterprise architectures for integration, I had a very strong belief that point-to-point connections are much better than hub and spoke. And it was a bit controversial because architecturally, it's prettier to do a hub and spoke. And I was like, no, you want the tightest, most native integration that you can get between these two things. Just like if you had a cable between your phone and your laptop, you want one cable, you don't want to put it into a hub and make it generic and then go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so I think those patterns helped. And then around 2011, we built a whole bunch of other integrations with platforms that like Get Satisfaction. We did Source Labs, and we built a very nice integration with a company called Zendesk. And back then, Zendesk was only a tiny company. And we built that and released that in 2011 together with Zendesk and Atlassian with the Connect framework, and got all those things going. It's interesting because over time, Salesforce has changed their APIs. So has Atlassian and so forth. So I think the Salesforce connector that we had, we ended up rewriting it 3 or 4 times. And which is fine, because when you've got the know-how, it's sometimes better to just, okay, we can simplify this at the next generation, next level. And I think when you're building connectors, you just have to be very pessimistic. You have to assume that everything's going to break. And there are 3 phases that I would write on the board. I would say there's 3 phases of a problem with an integration: discovery, the fix, and recovery. Okay, and the fix is usually really small. So the amount of time it takes you to find the problem, and then the amount of time it takes you to recover from the problem, are the 2 things you have to build the software for. Whereas most folks build it for when it works. And I think in integration, you have to have a mindset, and even building a business and servicing customers, you have to build it for discovery. I'm going to give you all my trade secrets here. Anyone who's trying to build a services company, build it for discovery and build it for recovery. If you build those 2 areas, the actual work part is the easy part, right? Yeah. So it's getting all that stuff.
I mean, I think in 3 phrases there, you pretty much described my entire relationship with my home assistant system.
He just also described
smart house.
He reminded me why I got out of IT.
Yeah, actually, this morning my doorbell broke, and I'm like, what do I do? No. Like, wait, where do I go? Like, I've got to go to these 6 different consoles. Is it the doorbell? Is it the software? Is it the cabling? Is it the power?
So, Alex, hold on though. If you think getting out of IT somehow gets you out of the discovery, fix, and what was the third?
Recovery.
Sorry, recovery.
I will tell you when
you're totally wrong.
No, because when a Jira server went down back then, or anything went down, it was on you to get it back up. And I was in a situation where the documentation to bring it all back up was in the server that went down.
And this is your own.
I left that life behind me.
You always have paper backups.
That was the Jira afterlife.
Am I crazy here? No, that is like all of life. It's not just IT.
You have GPT-5 now. You just describe your problem to it, and solutions come out in seconds. It's a much different life.
Yeah, I remember the times of like, okay, everything's stopped. The first thing you check is there any disk space left?
we had that problem once where we didn't have
Alex, you had it on another scale.
we got corrupted because it started like overwriting, and it was just finding fragmented parts of the drive where it could put files in. It was a nightmare. That's why I don't do IT. I do not miss those days. I don't miss those 24-hour on-call days either.
maybe I
You
just
see?
oversimplify everything, but I think most problems out there are the same, just different names. Most processes out there are the same with different names. It's just the
they're all
jargon
human.
and the
They're all human
vernacular.
errors. They're all human errors, right?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like our processes, the way we approach things, I don't know that it matters. At the core and at the root of all of them, they're very similar. And
Yeah,
so
I would agree. And great customer service and great focus on the customer's outcome, empathy for the customer it's everything, right?
yeah. So
the,
whether
the Beatles summed it up. Love is all you need.
But yeah, so I mean, whether it's so you're not doing IT anymore, right? So I know you're very invested in wanting to do training, Alex, and so but it's the same thing when you do training.
Oh, training is great. There's no bugs on a Friday when you're done.
But,
Right.
I come from
you guys
I come from a very
me.
different background. Alex is very much, he came from the software world, and that was his entry into Jira. I came as a system admin. So everything he complains about is what I thrive in.
Yeah. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love problem solving. I'm an engineer. I figured it out. But there was just pressures that I never want to ever have again in my life.
It's like why when I'm flying on an airline, I always insist on having a paper boarding pass because paper is never down.
Right.
It doesn't run out of batteries. It's there.
Buddy,
And that's why you also have paper documentation.
Even with the paper. So
you still have paper documentation because it doesn't run out of batteries and it doesn't corrupt itself.
And when you have
print your Jira work items.
Yeah, print them out. I'm not gonna lie. I used to work in aerospace, so plotter printers were a big thing because you had to print out the schematics. I've seen full Excel files printed out in like ginormous plotter paper, so it'd be kind of cool to print out.
We did one project for a customer that will remain unnamed. I think Matt Dorr is on this call. He will remember, but they had printed out their workflow, and it was literally like a whole door worth of.
Sometimes the only way to trace those lines without going blind, like you got to print them out big.
Yeah,
all those transitions.
Yeah.
So sometime though, I'm sorry I'm harping on this, friends, but sometime I do want to. I would love to have a conversation about this and the idea that, and again, maybe my perspective is wrong about they're all kind of the same things, right? So whether it was 100 years ago or today, I think we still have the same problems. No matter what the industry, no matter what the position of the job, I think the problems are incredibly similar. And so knowing that, can you really transform, right? Does transformation ever really happen when all of those things are the same? Are you just putting different terms on it? For another day, I just want to put that out there.
I'm just telling you that technology today, especially after GPT-5 coming out, like it's game changing. Like problems arise, but the solutions come faster.
So I will say the discovery is half better. The fix is good. The recovery not still is a problem.
It's very apparent sometimes between me and Alex our different attitudes for technology because he sees ChatGPT 5 and he's like, "Oh, this is great, whatever." Meanwhile, I'm still the one who keeps a gun next to the printer because it makes a weird noise.
All right, but I like that what just got started up here, right, from Dan. How are the challenges your customers face today different than when you started?
Yeah, how have they evolved in 20 plus years?
G'day, Dan. How are you doing? So Dan is an old friend. Customer challenges these days, I think early on, folks ran and built their own systems, right? And so they were focused on doing the work, I think, more for themselves. And I think now when we're working with customers, you have multiple layers between where the work's getting done and who is it impacting. And with the scale of some of the organizations that we're working with, it's just you just have to think differently. It's almost like if you were if you play music and you play in a small room or a small venue, or you play in a stadium. Just imagine that the sound setup is very different with how you make a change, and it needs to go out to everybody and come back. So I think now we're dealing with a lot of challenges of alignment. A lot of customers have challenges of that. They have challenges of just sequencing and dependencies and untangling getting everyone on the same page with what's got to be done. So I think there's a lot more work goes into the discovery, although the urgency of the customers is probably at an all-time high. So you're kind of doing the discovery as you go. I think customers have I think earlier on, people were about, they would dream up what they wanted done and then you would build it. And I think right now that led to a plethora of apps and frameworks and scripting tools and all these amazing things to make everything possible. And I think there is a huge call from the customer base to simplify stuff. And, I don't need 600 apps. What is the bare minimum I need to get going to simplify what's there? And it's probably similar to your iPhone. When you first got your phone, your Android or your iPhone, you were like downloading apps like this tomorrow.
I had my original iPod with all the apps.
And you get to my age now, and I'm like, my daughter's got the right thing. She organizes her icons by colors because I can't remember the name. So I'm like, oh, it was the orange one. Somewhere in the orange page, it'll be there, right? So you end up with like too many apps, and like you're the one who put them all on your phone. So I think the world is just yearning for simplification, and I think that's actually the biggest opportunity of AI, whether it be Rovo, whether it be what OpenAI is doing, or anything else. The key thing is customers want simplification, and whereas before they just needed a solution. So
I have a little, not controversial question, but I do wonder, because I deal with this myself. Like the evidence that that's what customers want, or do you think your experience and your age kind of color in because that's something that you want also?
I think it's what they want. I don't know whether it's always achievable, right? But it's where people start. So if you're talking to a CIO of a major corporation, they want the simplest thing they can get. But I would also say that's why some of these other platforms that are emerging quickly are get some traction, because they appear simple, and a business user can start with them, and inevitably they get stuck when it gets to a level of complexity. And that is the power of the Atlassian platform, is that you can kind of do both. If you look at the heritage of many of the Atlassian deployments, though, they started off with engineering. They started off with innovative teams who were building product. Those are different use cases than, service desk workflows or IT procurement processes or business level stuff. And so there are a lot of organizations where the system it's the same system, but it's just got all these entanglements and pieces with it. So, and the folks that set it up aren't there anymore. And so you have this, we've done this many times. You have this like 20 years of, we call it digital forensics and archaeology. It's like, what are the different layers of what's in this thing that nobody wants to delete or archive, but here it is. And so I think we're just getting to that point of how do we, you want the power, but you also want the simplicity for the end users so that work can get done. So, Dan, I hope that non-answer helps you. Very consulting answer.
Well, it depends. Our favorite thing. It depends.
I was going to ask a fun question. What's your, I guess it'll be two questions, but similar. What's your favorite memory with Scott, and what's your favorite memory with Mike?
Oh, wow. That is a good question. I remember going to the server-side symposium, which was a big Java conference in Vegas in 2004. And I did that with Mike, and Matthew from Contigix was there. And that was the conference that JBoss first got their funding. It was just a good time. Like, there were a lot of characters there that we met. So I kind of just remember that trip. I would say with Scott, Scott is very athletic, and he's very tall compared to me. I'm vertically challenged. So there's a few times we went for runs and stuff like that, and I think I'm taking 3 steps for every 2 that he's taking, trying to keep up and doing that. But it's, he's very, very disciplined and very on it. So I enjoyed a lot of those. I remember once there was an Atlassian soccer game, in Sydney, and I went, and I was so out of shape, but I joined in, and like for the first 30 seconds, I just put on all my moves. And almost scored, went end to end. Everyone's like, wow.
He was doing rainbow kicks. It was amazing.
This guy's really good. Like my Latino genes came out and all that kind of stuff. And then I just collapsed.
Were you around when Scott did the whole CPR on that Vegas person?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. I wasn't at that event.
Well, no, tell the story.
No, well, it's the only thing on Scott's wiki. Is like apparently he was out in one of the team conferences in Vegas, and they were out having dinner, and some person collapsed, and Scott went and provided CPR and like saved the person.
Wow.
Like Team 23 or something like that, or 22, one of those.
Yeah, I think it was Team 22.
You didn't know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't go to Scott's wiki.
It's like on his LinkedIn, like lifesaver.
Yeah, there was an article about it, and that's, I mean, he's very prepared and very able to use his training.
It was on the dance floor, so noted.
Oh, it was on the dance floor. Yes, it was something team related, but
yeah, I remember. When was it? Like it was something like 2007 or so. They won the Ernst & Young Australian Entrepreneur of the Year awards, and I was at the awards when they won, and it was really inspiring. And the next year I was a finalist and I won my category too. And so I was like, oh, I felt really special about that. I thought that was a really good moment for all of us. It was back in 2006, they were the 10th fastest startup in Australia, and we were the 16th. And I have that printed out somewhere in one of the business journals that was there. And then they went vertical. So it's it's like a lot of fun times. I mean, I remember going in there, and Ben Nafska, who was their first kind of operational hire, or one of the first. Mandy was there as well. But they would type every invoice in Microsoft Word. And he'd type in the invoice, and he'd be in the kitchen just typing invoices and sending emails. A couple of years later, we had to write the project to read, gigabytes of Word docs and turn them into accounting files inside a NetSuite so that we could get them all into a system. But that was a lot of fun. But I think, and Mike is still like this, but as they were building the engine that would do that, they were all very focused on identifying where the friction was. Right? So where's the friction? Is it in getting the download? Is it in getting the first piece done? Is it, which part of the process is it? And whenever they would focus on that friction point, and whenever they cleared it away, things grew to the next friction point.
Were they using Jira?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I mean, Mike still talks about that because someone from this call asked him about team managed projects at Team 25. And he was talking about, let's remove that friction from the user experience of just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but mention the word friction, and that's a key word.
That's a key word for him.
It's another tip for everybody.
What do you think was that success or that magic secret thing that caused them to vertically take off like that?
They didn't change their logo to point to 1 o'clock for starters. They kept the A pointing straight up. So I think that made a difference.
Cool.
Actually,
this is way
I hate
before
to be this guy, but
oh wait, no, Charlie was pointing up twice, right? Sorry.
I would hate to be this person, but because I am from Huntsville, which is known as the Rocket City, I have to say rockets that go vertical don't go very far. They actually have to eventually tilt.
Well, this is the way it takes off, right? That's why there's only one.
It takes off and then it goes, tilts off.
That is true. Okay, so back to Alex's question. And then I have a follow-up.
What was the question?
What do you think was the secret that caused him to be? Because you're watching them grow.
I don't think there's any secrets. I think there is a.
What was that moment?
They were maniacal about making customers successful.
So an Amazon story,
yeah, but it's just good business, right? There is a core there's a core belief that you've got a great product and you want people to be successful with it. And they were really focused on that. They had a little bit of an edge to the brand or
Their values.
Yeah, but even before values, right? Before they did the work on the values, if you go back to the Wayback Archive, and look at their initial websites, it's very bold and very on the front foot, and Mike had his stamp on that, on that they existed in the world and they stood for something, even though it was bug tracking, right? Issue tracking.
Everybody had bugs though.
Well, no, actually, back then you didn't have a lot of choices. You had Mantis, you had Bugzilla.
No, but you had bugs. Like everybody had.
Oh,
bugs.
yes, yeah, totally. And you had a spreadsheet of them, and so there wasn't. So the fact that the product could easily be understood and installed and running, and it looked beautiful compared to Mantis and compared to Bugzilla, there was a great case for it. And I think both of them were very active in open source in the various places. So it started spreading that way as a solution. And it's kind of interesting because before that, a lot of people, unless you were really big, you didn't use bug tracking software. Things were just in a sheet or yeah. I remember at Borland, we didn't even have source control. We used to have an FTP server, and it was like you just used to rename the folder with your latest code, and that was the product, right? So, yeah. So I think a part of it is the ERP-ification of product development, right? And they caught that wave really well. So.
We could follow up question, Sarah.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the time also, so I want to be cognizant of that because I know we have another big topic coming.
Yeah, maybe let's get one or two questions in, then we'll pivot.
Yeah, because no, it was just I always think about roles, all the different roles that go into making an organization successful, and when you're very small, right, and you have people fulfilling a lot of roles, and I like what you were just saying about the ERP of products and product management. And so getting back, not that it would be a secret, but I'm curious, like, what is that skill set? I mean, they're all hyper focused on customers, right? So I hear that, and absolutely true.
Yep.
But do you think, were they programmers? Were they product managers? Were they customer service reps? Like
all of the above?
I know, and they were all of the above. But
well, I think it's all.
One of them stood out as like this kind of helped propel it, and
it's hard. I mean, you even though I was so close to it, you can't see everything that's going on, right? So,
sure.
At one stage we had about 70 people doing support and really driving support metrics and driving improvements wherever we could get them and find them, and so I think that culturally there was just and still is, right, a strong culture towards doing the right things and building the right things. Now, it's obviously harder when you get to this scale and in such a market that we're in to keep everyone, happy on every single ticket and so forth of what they've logged and feature requests and stuff like that. But look, I see it day to day. I'm working on projects where I've got, very senior product management, C-levels jumping in on calls with customers to learn what's going on and doing that. And I think especially in the last year or so, there's been a huge push. You can really feel it. There's been a lot of leaning into hearing what the customers are saying, opportunities that they're seeing, and where they want to go. So I'm
going to say it's a selfish thing that I wish places would do. Whenever I look at org charts, I always want the customer to be at the top of the org chart. Like I want a placeholder for them up there because they always, they go up to, the CEO, the board, et cetera. But I'm like, customers,
it fits what there was a time maybe 4 years ago I got up in front of, because there's been a lot of money come into our space, right? Like, are we raising funding? Everyone's raising money and selling all this stuff. And then I remember getting up in all hands and saying to our whole team, saying, we have decided as a board that we're going to go and raise money. ... And the next sentence was from our customers. right? So you can either raise money from somebody else who's going to expect a return, or you can raise it from your customers, and the return they want is the value in the product, or the service that you're providing. And so we made a conscious decision that was like, you know what? Building a services business is like baking a cake. You can't rush it.
Mm-hmm.
If you architect it properly, you could combine a couple of cakes together. But in general, you can't take a cake and split it up into 5 different ovens and smash it together and have something that's kind of rushed and put together. So we've just taken the approach of, how do we just build it properly and let the customers, right at the top of the org chart, let them decide what they need from us, what they need from the market, what we can do, versus us just pushing on them what they're not ready for. And I think a question came up just a minute ago about Atlassian Intelligence. I think there was something there.
Do you see friction in the Atlassian Intelligence adoption?
Is in Rovo, or is it in Atlassian Intelligence itself? I would think this is probably a Rovo question.
I think think either or.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say this overall. I think this is following the hype cycle. And when the iPhone came out and mobile devices came out, everyone needed a mobile strategy. Everybody needed to use or take part in somebody's mobile strategy, but not every company didn't need a mobile strategy. I think even a couple of years ago, in marketing, it was like, what's your metaverse strategy? Right?
Right.
And so so there's portions of companies or teams that should experiment and try things. I'm not a big fan of telling my whole company, go out and, everyone be a vibe coding expert. I'm a true believer that every software platform will add AI to their own products to remove friction in their own products, and they will charge their customers for it, and it will be expected. And so there'll be a few companies that you can bring in, like OpenAI or whatever, and do what's there, and there'll be some new vertical solutions that appear. Because the space moves so quick, it's very hard to say, great, I'm going to build this solution and roll it out to thousands of people and be confident that when I start it in 2 quarters, when I'm finished, is what I'm building it on going to be the same, right? So I think the smartest folks that we're seeing are doing small projects, making improvements, but they're not losing track of the business goals and the business challenges they're trying to solve. And I would just controversially go out there and say, look, yes, AI is a great technology. So is the internet. So is mobile. Yes, we're going to have to use it. But does having an AI strategy need to be the core? No, the core of every business is serving customers reliably and being very reliable with how you do that. Not necessarily dreaming up new projects in a world that's a little bit blurry. So, but AI will definitely be around. Rovo will definitely be around. It does some amazing things, and it keeps getting better, right, every month. So, I think the businesses that some businesses, are pivoting very hard and being the AI thought leaders. And I would say, well, what happened to the mobile company thought leaders or the metaverse thought leaders? And I think we want to be experts in our customers' business challenges, and we want to be the experts in making the lives of our Rocketeers and our people the most important thing in order to deliver that business value to customers.
Yeah. The way I see it is AI, especially for us who are working to help customers, it's a great tool. It's a wonderful tool. It is a tool out of many in our toolbox. Just like you wouldn't use a screwdriver for everything around your house. Sometimes you need a hammer. Sometimes you need a level. There are more tools you need than just one. And you wouldn't use every tool on every single project. You need to be judicious about what you choose to use and when you use it.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with my accountant in a few months back, a few quarters back in Australia, and he came to me all excited about all the AI stuff he wanted to build, and I said to him, I'll just call him Steve. That's not his name, but I'll just call him Steve. I said, Steve, I don't pay you to be the world's best AI accountant. I pay you to be the most reliable accountant for me. And if you happen to use AI and you make yourself 10% or 20% or even 50% more efficient, you're not going to make it 50% cheaper for me, are you? You're going to want to recoup your costs. So I don't care from that perspective. In fact, it's the opposite, because I think if you spend your time trying to be the world's best AI accountant, you're not going to be the world's most reliable accountant for me. And I'm the one paying the bills. And so we have that same mindset with our customers, where they don't pay us to play with toys. They pay us to solve their challenges, and they pay us to be the most reliable for them in solving their challenges.
It's like an invisible thing, right? Like
You know,
if you use it, whatever, it should be invisible. That
it's a great tool. It's a great, as Rodney said.
But
exactly as Rodney says, it's a tool. If you're going to use it, great. Like if I build a house and I use power tools or a hammer, you don't really care. You got the outcomes there. So it's definitely very useful, very great tool. No doubt about it. Does it make some things more efficient? Yes, it does make our auditing even more complex. So we're at a net neutral right now.
Yeah.
Right. But it'll get there. So yeah.
So we got about 10 more minutes, and
time.
I did want to save some time because Rob, you came to us and you want to talk about something you guys have been working on over at Service Rocket for a good bit now, and I know Alex has been involved too. Why don't you give us some details? Yeah, give us some details about this new crew member program you've been working on.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the landscape and what's going on. We've got, and it's very similar to what happened in the Salesforce space. Many years ago, private equity came in and bought up a lot of the players, and they all ended up being part of the global SIs. And then there was a bit of a vacuum in the space as the ecosystem needed to absorb that change and grow. And what we're seeing out there is that there's a lot of certified experts, freelancers that also want to get started, want to participate. But there's a big moat actually between the individuals and getting to the work. Because especially now, like when I started, it was pretty easy to get going. It's pretty hard now. Customers want insurances and compliances and audits and all these kind of forms and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, hey, I'm trying to just get going. So we launched a program called the Crew Member Program. So if you go to crew.servicerocket.com, and we're aiming just to connect with the best of the best freelancers and individuals that, maybe are doing their own thing, but want to tap into some bigger projects. And on our side, we have a number of projects that scale up and scale down, and we want to get some expertise and leverage that and make it a win-win for the customer and a win-win for the crew member and a win-win for Service Rocket. And so it's a win-win-win-win, because we think we can help scale and start building out newer Atlassian partner companies over time to help really fill the gap. I think there's I think it's a great thing when an entrepreneur builds a business and can get an exit, and we've seen a lot of that in the ecosystem. But then there's also what's left, and a lot of the folks that are left don't necessarily enjoy being micromanaged on timesheets. And, that's just typically what happens with these kind of plays. It's nothing new, but there's also a lot of people out there that want to contribute to bigger projects. So we're just putting a call out at crew.servicerocket.com, and we'll get you in our system, in our community. And but this is not just, hey, let's get a repository of freelancers. What we'll start doing is investing in your certifications and investing in some of the programs and education, so that we can build a really good quality network. And at the right time, like we'll take on or help build some of the newer companies that should exist in this space. Because over time, what you'll notice is that there are already emerging different areas of different specializations where companies need to focus. And I think the days of being an Atlassian partner saying, I do everything, or when Atlassian says, what do? You just say, yes, I do everything, right? I think we have to be very deliberate about what areas and what things that we do. And so I think there's a lot of room to grow. there's 300,000 plus customers that use the Atlassian tools. I can tell you right now, we service under 1,000 of them, right? Pretty close to about 1,000. So it's like there's 299,000 that we don't touch. And I would bet that all
and 300,000 more to come.
And there's more to come. So I think anyone that has a mindset of, hey, we're going to dominate the space, I think is not, not very data driven. So
and Rob, I don't know if sharing my story helps or not, but I remember distinctively when you called me and you were chatting with me if I was interested. I remember pausing, and you're like, "Are you not excited for this?" and to be very transparent with you, March of this year, I used to have a regular 9-to-5 job, W-2 employee, and I walked away from it because I wanted to, help people with Jira problems, but I didn't want to have the strings attached of I have a 9-to-5 and I can only do that 9-to-5.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit. I had a contract. It got me through Teams, and then I went to Teams, and we did 7 days of Team in Anaheim, and then things tapered off a little bit. And I remember like a week before being like super worried. I told my wife, I'm like, maybe this wasn't the best decision that I've done in my life. And so I just remember when you called me, like all the worries that I had like disappeared in like a moment of like a second. And so when you asked me, you're not excited, I was just in my mind processing like all the things that I didn't have to worry about anymore.
I've had a lot of similar conversations with folks who are, hey, I want to get out there and do this. But it's really hard to get started. And so we're building a pathway for this. And look, I'll be straight. Some folks are great at being freelancers and being experts and doing their thing. We want to help them. And some folks have the extra drive or the skill set or the desire to want to build a company. And then what we'll do is I'll work with them and see how I can help them get going. I think Service Rocket becomes successful as we build ecosystem and the whole ecosystem thrives and Atlassian thrives. We're playing the long game. Like we don't have any external investors, right? So I don't have to generate a 5x return within 3 years because we're selling the company or anything like that. So we're just playing the long game and making sure that we can build things the right way. And I think there's a lot of passion in this ecosystem. There's a lot of people who have invested a lot of their personal brand and personal time with the tool set and want to make an impact and want to work on good projects. And I also think it's a waste to have them relegated to small clients, right? Or small projects just because they're individuals. So yeah, hit us up, connect with us, and for those that are interested, and we can get a dialogue going. You might be able to work with Alex.
Warning or
it's been 3 months.
It feels like a warning to me.
right? Like
it's been an amazing 3 months. I've had a blast. I'm so lucky and thankful that I joined, and it's been like the opportunities that I've gotten here. I don't think I've ever would have gotten had I try to do it by myself or something like that. So yeah, definitely. If you're interested,
like exactly what Dan is saying, and it's we're effectively building an incubator for on the services side. So.
Yeah,
because remember, as everyone says, services doesn't scale. Very good.
So Rob came to us like a month ago, asked if he could be on the show, talk about this program. And that part was never in question. We had a few other things we had to talk about first and get straightened out. But as soon as he mentioned this is what he wanted to talk about, we were all like, yes, let's get him on show. Let's have him talk about this. Let's get opportunities to people who need them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go on LinkedIn with a lot of green banners showing up around people's profile pics, right? It's just it's the nature of things. My husband works more so like in supporting a lot of marketing, advertising agencies, and he just watches them. They build up, they separate, right? You end up with a lot of free agents. Those free agents come together, create new agencies.
Yeah,
it happens all over. So
but I think it's because it's hard. Like being an Atlassian administrator as your 9-to-5 job is challenging because you're a cost center, right? You're not adding, you're not building, to the profit, right? But coming in as a contractor, Atlassian is a necessary tool to build the product that they need to sell.
Yeah, I think there's a mindset too. What I want to do is inspire folks to say, how do we, as like, if we're all wearing the same Atlassian jersey, we're all representing against the other platforms, right? And I think there's more to gain for all of us saying, how do we as a force united be the most reliable for the customers?
Yeah. So, we intentionally skip a day of the week on this podcast. We go from Sunday to Tuesday.
So the burning question, I'm sure for a lot of folks out there that I don't know if there's a clear answer for this. Do they get swag?
Yes.
I got a rocket. I got some shirts.
Right. If we know anything about the Atlassian community, right, is they, like a lot of communities, that they enjoy their swag.
Yeah, well, you might even get an extra ticket in the guitar giveaway.
All right. Well,
we're at time.
Yep. Rob, thank you for being on. Again, people, if you're interested in the Crew program, you need to go to crew.servicerocket.com and sign up and see what synergy there might be there. Sarah, Alex, thank you for being on. And as we say here on the Jira Life, we didn't choose the Jira Life. Jira Life chose us. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, Rodney, the Jira Guy Nissen, and Sarah, #IBelieveSarah, Wright. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lena Ortiz. You can catch us as we record this podcast live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and the other Jiramigos of the Peanut Gallery each week to ask questions, add your comments, and tell us what you're up to. If you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. You can also find us as a podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you think this podcast deserves a rating, it would be much appreciated, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us. Thank you to Revyz for backing us up and making the Jira Life possible.